Welcome to West Country Wanderings and welcome to another one in my Lost Railway Walk series, number 4 I believe. Today I'm at the suburb station of Oldfield Park, just on the outskirts of Bath, about 2 miles from the city centre. And the purpose of today's video is to go along what's known as the Tunnels Greenway, which was restored by Sustrans and opened in 2013. It's about 4 miles long and it takes us to the little village of Midford here in Bath and North East Somerset. So I hope you can join me today for another Lost Railway Walks. So now working through suburban Bath, and I think this route joins up with National Cycle Route 24, and when we get to Midford it joins up with National Cycle Route 4. If those figures aren't correct, I'll put a correction in the usual way below. It then joins what I think is known as the Collier's route, which then heads up in the Radstock direction, that sort of area. Anyway, that's not the bit we're concentrating on today, because this route was once part of the Somerset and Dorset Railway, and I hope to tell you about the history of the line that once left here from Bath Green Park Station, originally Queen Square, heading south to the coast in Bournemouth, in what was then Hampshire, but of course it's now Dorset. So now just joined the Tunnels Greenway, correction, it's number 244 National Cycle Route, not 24 that I said earlier. I've also noticed at the junction here in this suburb, you can also join the Bristol and Bath Cycleway, which goes off in the other direction. In fact, that joins up with the Avon Valley Railway at, forgotten the name of the place actually now, but they got that site there, haven't they, in South Gloucestershire, which we've featured a couple of times previously on the channel. Anyway, we're heading across this bridge which takes us over the main line that goes between Bristol and Bath. Now I've just come off the Greenway slightly to come along to this parallel road bridge which goes over the GWR main line heading down to Bath, which is about 1.5 miles in that direction. There you can see the railway track there, and it looks like when they opened the Greenway then there is a newer footbridge. I would imagine that that was a bridge originally as well that carried the Somerset and Dorset Railway over the GWR main line, and it would have been rebuilt when train just going past, Sustrans put this link in for cyclists and pedestrians. And as I say, as we go along, I'll tell you more about the history of the S&D. I'm sure a lot of you know, probably more than I do, about the S&D, one of the most famous steam railway lines in the country, made famous of course by one Ivo Peters, of which more later. Now the line started off as 2 separate companies, the Somerset Central Railway Company and the Dorset Central Railway Company. Now they joined forces on the 1st of September 1862 to have a coast-to-coast route, if you like, from Burnham-on-Sea via Highbridge right through and down to the coast of Bournemouth, including a branch to Wells. Hope to do something around Wells in the not too distant future as well. Now the company always struggled financially, that's the 2 companies that are joined together, and to improve their good fortune, because it was very lightly used, what they did was they did an extension called the Bath extension, which extended the line towards the city of Bath, whereby it could then join up with the Midland Railway line. They built a new station at Bath Queen Square, as I say, later known as Bath Green Park, so they could connect into the Midlands and then have traffic coming from the Midlands down to the south coast. Now along the route there are a number of interpretive panels, and we are currently at Bellot's Road, and the reason that's significant is it says, according to this, and I wasn't aware of this at all, that there was a crash hereabouts in 1929, the 20th of November 1929, locomotive number 89 had a crash here, and a train had left from Evercreech Junction, that most missed of railway junctions. Don't think there's anything there. I think it's all just completely ploughed away and just gone into the fields, alas. But it was a really important junction on the Somerset and Dorset Railway. Anyway, he was carrying a full load the driver of the engine, mainly of coal, probably coming up from the Somerset coal area, Somerset coal fields indeed. And it was one of a batch of 11, number 89 on the S&D. Now what happened was Combe Down tunnel, which we are walking to shortly. The driver and his fireman were both overcome by the fumes in the tunnel. It's quite a long tunnel, as we will see as we'll make our way down there, and they both became unconscious. And so in effect it became a runaway train. Now the S&D coming into Bath, unlike the GWR and MR, was a single track line, so it was becoming a runaway train down the bank, down in this direction, and of course the inevitable happened. There were fatalities, as it says here. Inspector John Norman was killed as his office was demolished. A clerk with the LMS was killed by flying debris as he walked under the yard, and driver Jennings died on the way to the Royal United Hospital in Bath. Fireman Pearce was badly injured, as was the guard Christopher Wagner. So yes, it's a really important dedication, interpretive panel here to the lives that were lost on that fateful day in November of 1929 here on the Somerset and Dorset Railway. So we're going to continue our walk now to the Somerset village of Midford. Lots of interest in that area as well. And I've just seen also on that interpretive board, amazingly, locomotive number 29 that was involved in that accident was later repaired, restored and put on display in 2006 at Bath Green Park Station. And if I do have time today before my train back to Gloucestershire, I do hope to have a visit, walk into Bath and have a look at Green Park before catching my train back again, because it is completely restored there. It's now a Sainsbury's supermarket, would you believe? But the main structure of the building, the terminus of the S&D, is still very much intact. Now coming up, this looks like the first original Somerset and Dorset overbridge, bridge going over the original rail track here. So it looks like the bridge was partially demolished and re-strengthened to carry the road over the top there. So it has been mended since the S&D days when the line closed. Now you should be able to make out a red brick building there on the left. We've got the track there on the right. That used to be a co-op, and in 1913 it was a bakery, and the S&D Railway put in sidings here. So this area is known as co-op sidings. You can even make out in between the two windows at the top there, which I think are now apartments, what would have been the hoist, probably to lift up the flour into the former bakery, cooperative bakery building here. Now the S&D closed in 1966, but the sidings carried on for another year to 18 months, well into towards the end of 1967 to carry on feeding the sidings here. On the 29th of July 1936, driver Rawlings and fireman Parker were shunting coal trucks in the sidings of Radstock, just down further on, down south of Bath here, when there was an express train coming through, and their train became derailed. Unfortunately, I can't make out everything it says on that interpretive board because it's kind of faded, but I've taken a copy of it. I'll see if I can get some more information from the internet. But thankfully on this occasion in 1936 no one was killed, and a major disaster on the ill-fated S&D was averted. So we're now coming up to the entrance to the first tunnel, which is Devonshire tunnel. It's the shorter of the two. The second one is Combe Down. And you have these well, rusty, it's not bronze, but rusty statues there, but they're worth pointing out. The one on the left there represents a Roman centurion, of course, because of Bath's Roman spa history, and it's known as Aqua Sulis, which means the water of Sulis, first established around AD 60s. In the middle there we have Harry Patch. You're probably familiar with Harry Patch because he was the last fighting Tommy, and he was born nearby Combe Down in Bath in 1898 and started work as an apprentice plumber in 1913 and was conscripted as a private into the Duke of Cornwall's light infantry. He died aged 111 in 2009. And finally on the right is Amy Williams, a gold medalist at the Vancouver Winter Olympics in 2010. She started training as a skeleton racer on the push start track at the University of Bath, also close by. Her winning slide gave Team GB their first gold medal in the 2010 Olympics. So now I'm going to enter the tunnel. Obviously I won't do any pieces to camera in it, it's going to be too dark for that. I have got a torch with me, got a jumper on because it's probably quite cool inside there too. So I'll see you on the other side of Devonshire Tunnel. So that's Devonshire Tunnel behind me there. It says on the sign it's about 2 minutes cycling time. It took me just under 10 minutes to walk it. You could probably walk it quicker than that because I was filming some of it as well. Get some really interesting sounds. There was somebody running behind me and it sounded like they had some very loud kind of rap music, but it wasn't. It was just the echoes of their footsteps behind me penetrating off the tunnel walls. Really interesting. I don't know if that's going to come across on the soundtrack. Hope it does. The other thing to note is that this tunnel was completely buried under soil when the line closed in 1966. They literally just chucked tons and tons and tons of topsoil and it was completely, utterly buried, so you'd never think there was a tunnel here. It wasn't until 2010 that the Railway Heritage Trust gave Sustrans a grant of some £40,000. They had monies from other bodies as well to completely excavate it. And happy to say that in 2013, just took them 3 years, 10 years ago now, the tunnel was completely reopened and restored. An amazing achievement in such a short time span. So yeah, it was a pleasant experience walking through the tunnel there. I managed to get some clips of the bits where you can see I forgot what they're called, the little alcoves that anybody working on the railway could just have to jump into if they heard a train hurtling towards Bath or heading down towards Bournemouth. But yeah, it was a little bit cool, but not unduly so. So I was glad I had my jumper with you, but a very pleasant experience on a warm summer's day too. I had a message from Louise yesterday as well, and I said that I was coming to do this as part of my Lost Railway series, and she said that through her running company, she's aware that they hold regular running activities through both these tunnels down to Midford and back again into Bath. So I think it's about 4.5 miles to Midford. So it's a 9-mile return route. But yeah, there must be an interesting running route going through the tunnels there, here, just on the outskirts of Bath. The other thing to note here is after leaving Devonshire Tunnel before we get to the next tunnel, Combe Hill Tunnel, there is this short section of viaduct. I can't remember the name of it, but I was hoping to scrabble down the bank, excuse the builders in the background there, to get a shot of it, but there's no access. Once you're on this greenway, you can't get off it again. But yeah, that's a little viaduct there. If I can find a screen grab off the web, I'll insert that roundabout now. I get a real sense that we're leaving Bath behind now. Things are becoming quieter. In fact, the cycle path on this footway is also becoming quieter as people have diverged off earlier on before the tunnel's there. And it's mainly people cycling through the tunnel. Not that many people seem to walk through it. It seems to be more of a cycling thing rather than a walking thing. But it is a very pleasant thing to do. But the beautiful woodland here, escaping away from the noise of the city now as we head across to the next tunnel. This tunnel, I forgot to say, I think it was about 415 metres. I've seen 2 or 3 different figures, so I'm not sure if that's entirely accurate, because another website quoted 419, so take your pick. But so yeah, it's about a third of a mile, we'll call it, something like that. So I'm now walking in the tunnel. Obviously it's going to be very grainy footage, I appreciate that. They have got music playing in the middle section of the tunnel. It's also very cold down here. It's weird kind of odd, modern, baroque, classical music. I don't know if I'd get a copyright strike if I used it on YouTube, but yeah, this is a really eerie experience. This is a very, very different experience to walking through Devonshire Tunnel. This one is much colder. I can see that's coming up on the camera there. You can see my breath there. It's probably only about maybe 6-7 degrees down here. You get a sense that you've got a large hill over the top of you. And you have these odd noises as well with the tyres that the bikes make as they're whizzing through the tunnel past you. But everybody seems friendly. Everybody seems to say hello as they pass through. But it's an extraordinary experience here. About 20 minutes into my walk, so I think I'm well over halfway now. But yes, it's eerie and different. You can feel the history, the railway history around me. And like Devonshire, you just kind of breeze through it in a few minutes. This is something else entirely. So we've now come out of Combe Down Tunnel, which goes under Combe Hill, of course. Fascinating geology around here. There's also a couple of things to mention. Is Bath stones quarried in this hill. You can just make out the outline of the hill just going up there, and the tunnel entrance is just over that way. And also around here was the father of geology, William Smith. He came here famously. He studied and landscaped the route of the Somerset coal canal, which is not that far from here, where I did a video previously on that. And yeah, you get a real sense of the geology as you're going through that. In actual fact, the bag that my tripod is in actually feels quite damp now, like there's been a condensation that's formed on the outside of it. Anyway, I'm going to find somewhere in Midford to probably grab a coffee, set my tripod up, and hope to tell you some more about the history of the Somerset-Dorset Railway. Now just about to start crossing over Tucking Mill Viaduct, one of the main structures on this entire route from Bath to Bournemouth, that being the other one there, the Combe Down tunnel. And obviously that drained the resources of the not exactly profitable railway line to begin with, as it made its extension to Bath and the Midland Railway. But here we go, we're going over this now, which affords us great views. Unfortunately though, I can't get a view of what the viaduct looks like from below, but again, I'll see if I can insert a clip of that or a photo from the net, but I'll just do a spin round so you can see what the views look like from the top of the Tucking Mill Viaduct here on the former Somerset and Dorset Railway. So I've now made my way back up the steep steps back on to the Somerset and Dorset former track bed here, heading down to Midford, where I think there is another bridge, or rather, I can't remember which one goes over which. There's a series of bridges. There's one of the old line branch line which goes to Camerton from the existing main line that heads from Bath down to Freshford, which we did a monthly vlog about not that long ago. And Limpley Stowe, that's it, that's where the junction is, or rather was, to Camerton, and that line crosses over this one as we get down towards Midford. So that there, up on the hill above the trackbed of the Somerset and Dorset, is Midford Castle, and next to it I think is a little chapel, beautifully decorated. It is of course private, and that there is the Midford Castle estate, but it's wonderful to see as we continue our walk to the centre of the village of Midford here on the S&D. So we're now walking on the platform, the former Midford station. This is a real delight to see this still intact. They have obviously done some work to the curbing and the brickwork since the line was restored, or rather Sustrans restored it for cyclists and walkers too, to this delightful little village here. Very spread out village. Looks like I'm walking towards the car park of the Hope and Anchor pub, where I'm hoping to get a coffee if that's open today. Certainly in need of some refreshment after walking here. What I hope to do next is to park up with my tripod, you know what I mean, and then tell you some more about the history of the railway. So those steps there surely have provided access a long time ago to this station here at Midford on the Somerset and Dorset Railway. And as ever on this Two Tunnels and Colliers Way Greenway, and the Colliers Way carries on the walk down to Radstock, or that's something we may do on a future Lost Rail Walks here on YouTube. There is a wonderful interpretive board, and it also refers us back to our old friend the Titfield Thunderbolt, and Midford was filmed, or featured should I say, in the opening scene of that film here. Just trying to imagine that now. If you've seen that film, trying to imagine what that looked like, and this is what it looks like now. If I can find a bit of footage of the opening shot of Midford Station, I'll insert that roundabout now. And yeah, so here you can see this is our viaduct, which is where I'm currently about here, and this is our viaduct here, and you can see the little branch line that went down to Camerton from Limpley Stowe off the main Bath line going towards Westbury as well. And that is a still from the film itself. And here you have a brilliant photograph what Midford Station looked like back in the day. This was taken on the 9th of June 1962 with standard class 4MT number 75023 coming into Midford Station. There's even a promotional poster there advertising Holyhead, a long way away from here in the West Country. And here you have a wonderful photograph taken in February 1966, just a few weeks before closure of the S&D of Midford signal box, and that's signalman Percy Savage and Harry Wiltshire, and they were posing for a photograph during a shift change. And this here is the Midford viaduct, which carried the line over the branch line to Carrington and Limpley Stoke as well. I'll see if I can get a ground view of that, and what I'm going to do is have a bit of a rest now, and then I'll do some pieces to camera. So I had a coffee at the Hope and Anchor pub. I can highly recommend it. It seems to be open most lunchtimes. I'll put a link into their website. Worth checking if they are open if you're coming here as a special trip and are planning to come here for lunch. I'm not sure what other facilities are around the village of Midford. It's a small and very spread out rural village deep in the Mendip Vale, but very, very pleasant too. So I'm here at Midford Station again. Having that refreshing lunch and something to eat. Very, very, very lovely. And there's a really nice spot here too. So I'm standing currently on the former platform of Midford Station. So a little bit more about the history of the Somerset and Dorset Railway. So as I said, it was two separate railways that amalgamated in 1862. It was the Somerset Central Railway and the Dorset Central Railway. And they provided a service between High Bridge in Somerset, of course, and then it linked down towards the town of Wimborne in Dorset. It was a very, very rural line, but they had plans to expand. But because it was such a rural nature of an area, and it didn't really connect with any other lines in the network of the railways around Great Britain, their revenues on it were very, very low. So they had that ambitious plan to link it to the Midland line in Bath. Now that made the line really busy in summer Saturdays because you had trains coming down from Midlands towns, particularly from the northwest, and famously the Somerset and Dorset Railway, as it later became known, was famous for the Pines Express, which went from Manchester right through to Bournemouth via Bath. Now the railway that headed down from Bath Junction, incidentally the section between Bath Junction and Bath Queen Square / Green Park, was owned by the MR, the Midland Railway. It wasn't owned by the Somerset and Dorset line, so they had to kind of share that track there between the Midland Railway, which had its own route then on to Bristol, which now forms, well, the Avon Valley Railway, which we've seen before, and perhaps we'll walk a section of that line that's a cycle route between Bath and Bristol, I digress. So it came off of Bath Junction there, single track, heading down here to Midford after passing through those two tunnels which we saw earlier in the video. So it's single track. After it left here, it became duggable track for a while. It then headed on to Wellow and then Radstock, and when it fed in there, you had the coal from the collieries all around the Radstock area, so that fed in from that area. Then it went single track again all the way down to Evercreech Junction. Now Evercreech was an important place on the Somerset and Dorset because you have that line going across the west, right across to the Somerset coast towards High Bridge, where it crossed over on a flat bed crossing, you know what I mean. It was a straight crossover on the main line between Exeter and Bristol, and then it went over towards the town of Burnham-on-Sea. There was also a spur off towards the Somerset town of Bridgewater, and yet another spur off to the city of Wells. I think Wells actually had 3 stations of its own. I digress. The line continued on down, and the only main crossing point of the line where it intersected with other main railway lines apart from the terminus at Bath was at a place called Templecombe. Now there is still a station at Templecombe because it's on what is known as the West of England line, and that's the railway line that runs between Exeter and to London Waterloo. It's still in existence, although a lot of it has now been singled. I think Templecombe station closed and then it reopened again, I think, in the early 70s, so it's still there, but there is just now a single track line going through Templecombe Station. But it was an interesting place for photographers and videographers, well, not videographers, it had been cine films, particularly one Ivo Peters, who would often go down to Templecombe, shooting the odd arrangement there, because you had Templecombe Station and Templecombe Junction, and the trains had to do this weird kind of odd switchback route to get round the West of England line and then make their way into Templecombe Station, and that was often caught on camera, both stills and cine film too, which is great. There's also a series of books that Ivo Peters, and I've got a couple of them in my collection. I'll see if I can find some photographs that he took on this line, particularly here at Midford too. Now, in terms of motive traction on the line, it had in the 60s a mixture for freight of Fowler 4Fs and Stanier 8Fs. Because it had that link to the northwest and beyond as well, well into the Midland region, well out of my area, it had a lot of mixture of different steam locomotives, nearly always steam locomotives. It wasn't until the very, very end of the line that was some diesel specials, a couple of shunters as well. And of course, they used the diesels to help dismantle the line. Unfortunately, it closed again 1966 with the beaching cuts. It had that small section that we saw earlier, which carried on for another year or so to serve the co-op siding, and again at the other end around Blandford Forum. But spectacularly at Blandford Forum, they blew the viaduct up. I think you can perhaps see that on YouTube, certainly see photographs of it, and a small stub of that viaduct there just outside that wonderful Dorset town still remains. What I'm going to do next is just have a look at the viaduct here. I'm just going to walk down so you can see, and we'll have a quick look and see what we can see the remains of the other branch line, that one that went on to Camerton and served the collieries around this area, as nearby of course to here was the Somerset Coal Canal as well. So this here is an extraordinary sight. That's our Somerset and Dorset Railway here. This is Midford Viaduct. Just goes over the Midford Brook, I believe. And then going underneath one of the arches, there's another viaduct here. It's now an extraordinary sight. And that's our Camerton branch, which headed off the main line at Limpley Stoke, about a mile from here, making its way to the village of Camerton. We've come across it before because part of it built over the old Somerset Coal Canal. But yes, that's a tremendous sight here in Midford. Before I close the video today, what I do, I'm going to head over now to Bath Green Park and have a look at what remains of the station there. I know there's a Sainsbury's supermarket there. There's also some independent traders around there, so we can have a look and see what we can see of where this line terminated in the wonderful city of Bath. So now at Sainsbury's Green Park, and it's good to see this original railway bridge, what I think is, which is the road access into and out of the car park here at Green Park. And there it is from the other side of that parapet.
And I think that impacts on your ability.
Let's have a closer look. So along this bridge would have been the Pines Express, coming both into and out of Bath Green Park, making its way down from Manchester into Green Park and back out again. Reversal of the engine down south towards Bournemouth. Well, why does that bridge need to be there into the car park? Well, it takes us over the River Avon, of course. So in a very noisy and busy Sainsbury's car park, we find the original Bath Green Square, or Green Park should I say, what was originally Queen's Square. It's a shame to see it as a trashed industrial site at the moment. I don't know, last time I was here it wasn't like this. It was all, there was market stalls, but now parts of it are torn down. And for what reason, I have no idea. So lo and behold, that's the reason for all of the building work that's going on. So sadly, it looks like the Green Park station has had a fire. And you can see the extent of the damage to the roof there. That is such a shame, but hopefully that can be restored once again. hope you enjoyed this Lost Railway walk today here on the Somerset and Dorset Railway, the first time we featured the S&D on West Country Wanderings. There'll be another Lost Railway walks in the not too distant future. If you have any comments about the S&D or the video, or you've done any section of it yourself, please drop a line. You can also join my Facebook group. Request to join that, you just type in West Country Wanderings into Facebook and then request to join. You can share your own photographs and memories of the S&D on there too. Until next time, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and I hope to see you on the channel soon. Cheers now, bye bye.